Now here's a radical change that can be coming. Toyota is working on solid-state batteries for electric cars. And you might think, oh, what's the big difference? Well, it's a gigantic difference. These things can fully recharge in like less than 15 minutes. They weigh so much less. They will cost less money to build. It's a real game changer if it comes to fruition. They say they can have a range of 300 miles. You can recharge them in like 10 minutes. And they can last for 240,000 miles of driving. Big game changer. A lot of customers ask me, Scotty, should I buy an electric car? And I said, if I were you, I'd wait. Who knows which technologies are going to win out? Let's say Toyota gets a solid state out, and everybody else is working on them too, not just Toyota. Somebody really makes a solid state battery that works, that doesn't weigh much, that can recharge that fast. All the old lithium ion battery cars are backdated. Who wants a car that you got to recharge it, plug it into your house, and it takes 5 days? Or even if it takes 2 hours or 4 hours plugged into a 240 charger. People can't stand that. If they can recharge them in 10 minutes, that's a game changer. If you have solid state electrolytes and you're not messing around with all the expensive materials, all the weight of a big heavy lithium ion battery, that's going to revolutionize and also make the cost of the vehicles less. And that's the big deal. If they can sell at about the same price and you can recharge them in the time it takes to fill your car with gas, that's a game changer. That's why I tell people, wait. You thinking about getting an electric car? Wait a while. See how it pans out. You buy one now. I had a customer bought a brand new Model S Tesla, $120-something thousand. He decided he didn't like it. He ended up selling it for $50,000. That's one giant loss to take. So, solid-state technology comes out, great for electric cars. Not great for people who bought one right now. So you might hold your horses when it comes to buying an electric car and see what actually pans out in the future. Got all these beta machines and beta tapes that nobody uses them anymore. Could be the lithium-ion electric cars, may be the Betamax of automotive industry. Grandmaster64 says, bought a new 2021 Corolla. Feels jerky when it downshifts. It's my first time driving a CVT. I was wondering if it's normal, this jerky downshift. All right, well, technically it doesn't downshift because it's a CVT transmission. Drive it a while, take it to the dealer. If you really have a question, say, hey, could you check the software on this? Does it need an upgrade? Sometimes they upgrade the software. But you'll probably find with that might not come for a while because it's a 2021. And they don't find out that stuff until later. Now, the CVTs are different than other vehicles. If you're really doing it at low speeds, you might find a little that they'll probably find software for as time goes on. If it's always going back into just the beginning of taking off slow, because that has one of these launch gears where the CVT transmission actually has a gear it launches on, and then after the first, it goes into CVT. And it could be that they don't have the software perfect on that. So check with Toyota now, and if you're not happy with it, wait a while, and they'll probably find out there's some kind of software change, because it is new, and that's the reason I tell people, don't buy a new car. You never know until it's been out. I buy my cars used and I road test them. If they don't have any problems, great. That was the system that was made right. They don't have problem shifting. You buy a new car, you're stuck with what they have. That's one reason I'd never buy a new car. I wait till they're a few years old. I get to road test them, and if they work, fine. If they don't, when I road test them, guess what? I don't buy them. Grandmaster64 says, what's the best oil for 2021 Toyota Corolla? Is it always the one recommended in the owner's manual? Well, realize if they do give you an actual oil that you're supposed to use, they generally get paid by a company for that. For years, some of the cars said use Mobil 1, some said use Castrol on European cars. Oil is made by companies. In the United States, they have rules, the things they have to meet. What you would want with the 2020 Toyota Corolla would be that new GF6A oil, the one that's made for those new cars. Lots of companies make them. My advice is look at the prices and buy the one that's got the best price. I personally like Castrol oil. They make great oil. But so do other companies. When it comes to the GF6A oil, buy one from a company you've heard of. I wouldn't, buy it from off-the-road oil company. Use a regular brand name company because they've got good quality control. control and buy it from them and then just stick to that brand. But the GF6A oil was made for those modern cars. And I would use that particular style. That's not the company, that's the style. Get it the weight that it says. If it says 0W16, you get 0W16. If it says 0W20, you get 0W20. That's the weight. But you can buy whatever company you want, at least in the United States, because it's all required by law to meet certain specifications. Jotzi20 says, we bought a 98 Honda Civic EX. It says rebuilt registration on the title. The engine is misfiring. They make good engines, but unfortunately you bought a rebuilt title. No one explained it to you. That means that that car was wrecked, flooded, stolen, and it was totaled by an insurance company. It's sold with a rebuilt title. It doesn't mean anything was actually rebuilt. It's just a name. We used to call them salvage titles because they were salvaged. And then either a junkyard would take them apart or they'd sell them to somebody as a car and say, go ahead, buy it. Fix it up if you want. Or some guys will buy them themselves, fix them so they run, and then try to sell them. They have very little value, and that's a 98 Civic, so it's 23 years old. You got to figure out why it's misfiring. It could be a zillion things. Do my video, fixing a misfiring engine, Scotty, type that in, watch it. Pray it's something simple like spark plug wires, spark plugs. It's an old 98 Civic. Could easily be the distributor's gone bad. I replaced many distributors. You can go to any auto parts store and they sell brand new ones and they work perfectly fine. It couldn't need a distributor. But buying a car with a rebuilt title, unless you pay it, $200 for it, is a mistake in most cases because it was totaled by an insurance company for good reason. They don't total them for nothing. They don't want to have to shell out as much money as that they have to. They want to shell out the little as possible. So if they total a vehicle, it's telling you, had some serious problems before you owned it. Jerry Brim says, I just changed my spark plugs for a 2010 Honda Accord. The mechanic used NGK G-Power Platinum alloy. Are they good? The owner's manual says you need iridium. They're perfectly fine. Those are good spark plugs. They won't last quite as long as the iridium ones. The reason they use iridium is because iridium wears even slower than platinum. Often the platinum spark plugs can go 100,000 trouble-free mileage. I've seen some iridium ones last 200,000 miles. There's nothing wrong with the platinum ones. If you got 100,000 miles out of spark plugs, what the heck? The platinum ones were made to last longer than the old-fashioned copper ones. And the iridium ones are made to last longer than the platinum ones, but they cost more. Most guys, if they have an oddball engine, they will stick with the iridium because you take some of these V6 engines, the back 3 spark plugs, you got to take the intake manifold of the vehicle off to change. That's going to cost a fortune. So you only want to do it once. So then I would definitely put iridium spark plugs in. And with a job like that, I would also change the 3 ignition coils because what if you do it and then a year later the coil goes out? Then you got to take the intake manifold off again. I would do the whole shooting match then. But your Honda, easy to change the spark plugs. There's nothing wrong with using platinum ones. They're perfectly fine. Halim says, Scotty, my dad bought a 2020 Hilux diesel. I try to change the oil. When I floor it, there's a lot of white smoke, but it goes away after a long drive. What could be wrong? The engine only has 22,990 miles on it. Your dad recently bought it. He bought it used. It's unfortunate, but the previous owner was probably a slob. Maybe he never even changed the oil. Probably burning some oil. Now, I would take it into Toyota to see if they're going to do any kind of warranty stuff on it, but they're going to ask for oil change proof. And if you don't have that, they're just going to say the oil wasn't changed. You get no warranty on this engine, unfortunately. That's why it's a real gamble buying a used diesel engine. If he would have bought it brand new and changed the oil regularly, hey, we wouldn't have any problems at all. Odds are it's burning a little bit of oil now. And that's kind of a stinker with an engine that's got 22,990 miles on it. But do take it to Toyota, see what they say. Though, like I say, they're going to ask for proof of oil change. He bought it used, and unless there's proof that the oil was changed at all these correct intervals, they're just going to say, hey, the oil wasn't changed. It's not our fault. The guy didn't take care of the vehicle. That's why I always warn people about buying used diesels. You never know how they've been maintained. And you need real proof that the oil was changed a lot. Cruiser Fan says, hey, I got an 02 Land Cruiser with 294,000 miles. Doesn't start right away. Takes a couple of seconds. Battery, new spark plugs, new fuel filter. I replaced an ignition coil because it had misfire in 5. Now that's gone. What do you think it could be? This shows you the difference between a Toyota owner and, say, somebody with a Chrysler. You say, well, it takes a couple of seconds to start. Hey, it's got 294,000 miles on it, You're used to Toyotas just crank and start it up. It's got a lot of mods on it. It's 19 years old. Now, it It could be that your fuel pressure regulator's getting a little weak, the fuel pump's getting a little bit weak. I've had customers with Chrysler say they start after you crank them for 20, 30 seconds, and they just live with it, you know? You might be getting a little bit too fanatic-y, which it takes a couple of seconds to start. I could care less. My old Celica, it's a 94, and it takes a couple seconds to start when it's cold first thing in the morning. I don't care, you know? When it's really cold outside, it's not that big of a deal. But if you want to figure it out, could be the fuel pressure regulator's getting weak or the fuel pump's getting a little bit weak. But if it runs fine otherwise, me, I'd personally live with that. Heck, a couple of seconds is nothing on a vehicle with that kind of mileage, especially if it does it in cold weather more than in hot weather. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.